My dad taught me to respect other people's property, then sold my car without permission. Now he's learning that lesson the hard way. Like and subscribe to see how I turned the tables on my father with his dream Porsche. Growing up, my father always preached about respecting other people's belongings. "Evelyn, never touch what isn't yours without permission," he'd say with that stern look of his. The irony of those words would hit me years later when I discovered he had sold my cherished 1967 Mustang, a car I had spent 3 years restoring with my own hands and money, without even telling me. I was 27 when this happened, living in Seattle and working as an architectural engineer. My job required frequent travel to construction sites across the Pacific Northwest. So I had temporarily stored my classic Mustang in my parents' garage in Portland while using my company car for work. The Mustang wasn't just transportation. It represented countless weekends of hard work, skinned knuckles, and a passion project that connected me to my late grandfather, who had taught me everything I knew about cars. The discovery happened on a rainy Saturday when I drove down to visit my parents. I planned to take the Mustang for a spin since the weather forecast promised sunshine for Sunday. As I pulled into their driveway, I noticed something odd. The garage door was open, and where my beautiful candy apple red Mustang should have been sitting was nothing but an empty space. "Mom? Dad? Where's my car?" I called out as I entered the house, rain dripping from my jacket onto their pristine hardwood floors. My mother's face fell immediately, and she shot a glance toward my father, who was sitting in his recliner, newspaper in hand. He lowered the paper slowly, that familiar look of certainty, the one that said he'd made a decision and wouldn't be questioned about it, plastered across his face. "I sold it," he said flatly. "Got a good price, too. 18,000. The room seemed to spin around me. "You what? That car was mine. I restored it from practically nothing." "It was taking up space in the garage, Evelyn. You weren't using it. Besides, you've got your company car now." "That's not the point," my voice cracked. "You had no right to sell my property. Who did you sell it to? I want to buy it back." My father shook his head. "It's gone to a collector in California, already shipped out. The money's in your college fund account." "I graduated 5 years ago, Dad. I don't need a college fund." I was nearly shouting now, my hands trembling. That car was worth way more than 18,000. I put at least 30 into the restoration alone. He had the audacity to shrug. "Well, what's done is done. You'll thank me someday. Classic cars are just money pits." I stormed out of the house, too angry to even look at him. Behind me, I could hear my mother calling my name, but I couldn't stay. I drove to my best friend Kate's apartment and collapsed on her couch in tears. Kate, who had seen me through every up and down since high school, listened as I poured out the whole story. She knew how much that car meant to me. She had helped me sand down the body and had held the flashlight during late-night repair sessions. "Your dad has always been controlling," she said, handing me a glass of wine. "But this crosses a line. It was legally your property." As my initial shock wore off, something else replaced it. Determination. My father had always been like this, making decisions for everyone around him because he thought he knew best. For years, I had accepted his behavior, chalking it up to him being old-fashioned or overprotective. But I wasn't a child anymore, and it was time he learned that his actions had consequences. "I know exactly what I'm going to do," I said, suddenly sitting upright. "Dad's been talking about his dream car since I was a kid, a 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS. He has a scale model of it on his desk." Kate raised an eyebrow. "Those are worth like, what, $250,000? "More for a good one," I confirmed, "and I'm going to find one." "Wait, you're going to buy your dad his dream car? After what he did?" Kate looked confused. I smiled, feeling a plan forming. "I'm going to buy it all right, but not for him." Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into researching vintage Porsches. I had savings, quite substantial ones actually. Living frugally and investing wisely had left me with a healthy portfolio. I had been saving for a down payment on a house, but this felt more important somehow. This was about standing up for myself in a way my father would truly understand. I found the perfect car through a specialized dealer in Chicago, a pristine 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS in Viper Green, with the exact specifications my father had always described in his dream car stories. The price tag was staggering, $267,000. But I didn't hesitate. I arranged financing for part of it, liquidated some investments, and made the purchase. The dealer arranged to have the car transported to Seattle. When it arrived, I asked Kate to come see it with me. "Holy crap, Evelyn," she whispered, running her hand along the flawless paint. "It's gorgeous." "It is, isn't it?" I said, feeling a mixture of emotions as I handed her the keys. "Happy early birthday." Kate stared at me, keys in hand. "What? No, you're not serious." "I am completely serious. The car is yours." "But this is crazy. I can't accept this." "You can and you will," I insisted. "But there's one condition." "What's that?" she asked, still looking shell-shocked. "In 3 weeks, you're driving me to Portland to visit my parents, and you're taking this car." Understanding dawned on Kate's face, followed by a slow smile. "You're going to show your dad what he missed out on." "Exactly. He needs to understand that his actions have consequences. He sold my car without permission, a car that meant the world to me, and now he's going to watch his dream car drive away with someone else." As the day of our Portland trip approached, I felt a mixture of nervousness and vindication. Part of me wondered if I was taking things too far, but then I'd remember the empty space in the garage where my Mustang had been, and my resolve would strengthen. The morning we left, Kate arrived at my apartment in the Porsche, the engine's purr announcing her arrival before I even saw the car. Even though I'd already seen it, the sight of that perfect machine still made my heart race. It really was a work of art. "Ready for this?" Kate asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I took a deep breath. More than ready. The drive to Portland was nothing short of exhilarating. The Porsche handled like a dream, responding to every touch with precision and power. We arrived at my parents' house just after noon, and I directed Kate to park right in the driveway in full view of the living room windows. The front door opened before we even got out of the car. My father stood there, frozen in place, his eyes locked on the green Porsche. I could see the recognition in his face. He knew exactly what model it was. "Evelyn?" he called out, his voice uncertain. "What's this?" I stepped out of the passenger side, smiling. "Hi, Dad. This is Kate's new car. Isn't it beautiful?" My father walked slowly down the driveway, circling the Porsche with an expression of pure awe. This is a 1973 Carrera RS. The real thing." "Yep," Kate confirmed, patting the hood proudly. "Evelyn gave it to me as an early birthday present. Can you believe it?" My father's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine with a mixture of confusion and disbelief. "You bought this?" "I did," I said calmly. "After you sold my Mustang without asking, I realized how much cars really mean to people. So when I had the chance to get this one, which I believe is your dream car, right? I thought it would be the perfect gift for Kate." The color drained from my father's face as the full implication of my words sank in. He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again. My mother had joined us by this point, and I could see her trying to suppress a smile. She had always been caught in the middle of my father's authoritarian decisions, rarely standing up to him directly, but often working behind the scenes to smooth things over. "It's a beautiful car," she said, breaking the silence. "Why don't you all come inside for lunch? I made your favorite, Evelyn, chicken salad with cranberries." As we walked toward the house, my father hung back, still staring at the Porsche. I felt a twinge of guilt, seeing the naked longing on his face, but I reminded myself why I was doing this. It wasn't about punishing him, it was about teaching him that respect goes both ways. Lunch was a tense affair. My father barely spoke, pushing food around his plate and occasionally glancing out the window at the Porsche parked in the driveway. Kate, bless her, chatted enthusiastically about the car, describing the features and how amazing it was to drive. "The handling is incredible," she gushed. "And that sound when you accelerate. Nothing else sounds like an air-cooled Porsche engine. It was quite an investment, I added, looking directly at my father. But some things are worth more than their monetary value, don't you think, Dad? He nodded stiffly, finally meeting my eyes. How did you afford something like that? I've been saving and investing since college. Plus, I got a bonus at work recently for completing the Seattle Heights project ahead of schedule. That must have been some bonus, he muttered. The car is only partly paid for, I admitted. I took out financing for the rest, but it's worth it to see how happy Kate is. After lunch, my father asked if he could look at the car more closely. Kate, following our prearranged plan, enthusiastically offered to show him all the features and even suggested he sit in the driver's seat. I watched from the porch as my father reverently lowered himself into the Porsche, his hands caressing the steering wheel with the same care I had once shown my Mustang. My mother joined me, leaning against the porch railing. You know, he realized he made a mistake the moment that Mustang left on the trailer, she said quietly. He's too stubborn to admit it, but he regrets what he did. Then why didn't he try to get it back? Or at least apologize? She sighed. You know your father. He has a hard time admitting when he's wrong. But what you're doing right now, I think he's getting the message. I nodded, watching as Kate showed my father how to adjust the seats. I just want him to understand how it felt, to have something you love taken away without any say in the matter. Oh, he understands now, my mother assured me. Trust me, he hasn't slept well since that day. He keeps saying he did the practical thing, but I know he feels guilty. After a few minutes, I walked down to the driveway. My father was still sitting in the Porsche, seemingly lost in thought. It's everything you always said it would be, I told him, leaning against the car door. The pinnacle of automotive engineering for its time. He nodded, a mixture of emotions playing across his face. I've dreamed about this car since I was younger than you are now, he said softly. Never thought I'd even sit in one. Dad, I said, my voice gentle but firm, I need you to understand something. What you did with my Mustang, it wasn't just about the car. It was about respect. You taught me to respect other people's property, but you didn't show me the same courtesy. He was quiet for a long moment, his hands still resting on the steering wheel. I thought I was doing what was best, he finally said. The garage was getting crowded and you weren't using the car. It seemed practical. But it wasn't your decision to make, I pressed. That car was mine. I restored it. I paid for it. How would you feel if someone sold something precious of yours without even asking? His eyes flickered to the Porsche's dashboard, then back to me. Understanding slowly dawned on his face. I'd be devastated, he admitted. And angry. Exactly. He sighed heavily, then climbed out of the car. Standing in the driveway, he looked smaller somehow, less like the imposing figure of my childhood, and more like a man confronting his own mistake. I'm sorry, Evelyn, he said, the words clearly difficult for him. You're right. I should never have sold your car without permission. It was wrong of me. The apology, as simple as it was, felt monumental coming from my father. In all my years, I could count on one hand the number of times I'd heard him admit he was wrong. Thank you, I said, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. That means a lot. Kate had tactfully retreated to the house, giving us space for this conversation. Now she emerged with my mother, both of them carrying glasses of lemonade. Everything okay out here? My mother asked, though her knowing smile suggested she already had her answer. Getting there, I replied, accepting a glass from her. We spent the rest of the afternoon catching up, the earlier tension gradually dissipating. My father even asked about my work and seemed genuinely interested in the architectural challenges of my latest project, a marked change from his usual dismissive attitude toward my career choice. As the day drew to a close, Kate mentioned that we should probably head back to Seattle before it got too late. My father walked us to the car, lingering beside it with barely concealed longing. Would you like to start it? Kate offered, holding out the keys. My father's eyes lit up. Really? Go ahead, she encouraged. He turned the key, and the Porsche's engine roared to life, settling into that distinctive air-cooled purr. The smile that spread across his face was one of pure joy. "Thank you for this," he said, reluctantly shutting off the engine and handing the keys back to Kate. Then he turned to me. "And Evelyn, I'm going to make this right. I've already been in touch with that collector in California. He's not interested in selling the Mustang back, but I'm going to keep trying." "I appreciate that," I said, surprised by his initiative. "But even if you can't get it back, the important thing is that you understand why it mattered so much to me." He nodded, then hesitated before pulling me into an awkward hug. "I do understand. And I'm proud of you, you know. Standing up for yourself, even to me. That takes guts." As Kate and I drove away, I watched my father in the rearview mirror, standing in the driveway watching the Porsche disappear. I felt a complex mixture of emotions: satisfaction that my point had been made, relief at his apology, and a surprising sense of connection that hadn't been there before. "So," Kate said once we were on the highway, "mission accomplished?" I smiled, leaning back in the butter-soft leather seat. "I think so, though I have to admit, I'm a little jealous. This car is amazing." "Well," Kate grinned, "since it's technically mine now, I suppose I could let you drive it sometimes, as long as you ask permission first." We both burst out laughing at the irony, the Porsche carrying us back to Seattle as the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. I had set out to teach my father a lesson about respect and boundaries, but in the process, I had also learned something about the power of standing up for myself and the importance of direct communication. 2 months passed. Kate and I had settled into a routine of sharing the Porsche on weekends. She insisted I drive it at least once a week, saying it was only fair since I'd paid for it. My relationship with my father had improved significantly. We spoke on the phone weekly now, something we'd never done before, and our conversations were more honest and open than they had ever been. Then, on a crisp autumn morning, my doorbell rang unexpectedly. When I opened the door, I found my father standing there, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Dad? What are you doing here?" I stepped back to let him in, surprised by his unannounced visit. "I have something to show you," he said, jingling a set of keys in his hand. "It's in the parking lot." Curious, I followed him downstairs and out to the visitor parking area. There, gleaming in the morning sunlight, was a candy apple red 1967 Mustang that looked remarkably like mine. "Is that—" I couldn't finish the sentence, afraid to hope. "It's not your original car," my father admitted. "The collector wouldn't sell it back, no matter what I offered. But I found this one in Oregon. Same year, same model, same color. It needs some work, not as much as yours did when you started, but enough to give you a project." He handed me the keys. "It's not the same, I know, but I thought maybe we could work on it together. I could learn a thing or two from you about restoration." I was speechless, running my hand along the slightly faded paint. It wasn't my car, the one that had connected me to my grandfather, but it was my father's way of trying to make amends, and that meant more than I could express. "I've also been thinking," he continued, clearly uncomfortable but determined. "Your mother and I have that big garage, and you have limited space here in the city. Maybe you'd like to keep this one at our place too? But this time, I promise." He held up his hand solemnly. "I won't touch it without your explicit permission. In writing, even." I laughed, tears welling in my eyes. "I'd like that. Thank you, Dad." "No, thank you," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "You taught me something important, Evelyn. Something I should have learned a long time ago." "What's that?" "That respect isn't just about following rules or doing what seems practical. It's about honoring what matters to the people you love, even if you don't fully understand it yourself." I hugged him then, right there in the parking lot, breathing in the familiar scent of his aftershave mixed with the faint odor of motor oil that seemed to perpetually cling to his clothes. "Want to go for a drive?" I asked, pulling back and dangling the keys. He smiled. "I'd like nothing better." As we pulled out of the parking lot in the Mustang, the engine rumbling beneath us, I couldn't help but think about how a car, 2 cars actually, had managed to break down walls between us that had stood for decades. My father had always taught me about respect, but now we were both learning what it truly meant to respect each other as adults. The following weekend, Kate drove down to Portland with me in the Porsche, and we spent 2 full days working on the Mustang with my father. My mother brought us sandwiches and cold drinks, occasionally picking up a wrench herself when an extra hand was needed. As we worked, my father and I shared stories. His about his younger days dreaming of fast cars, mine about the restoration techniques my grandfather had taught me. "You know," Kate said as we took a break, leaning against the workbench, "when you first told me your plan to buy the Porsche, I thought you were just trying to get revenge." "Maybe I was, a little," I admitted. "But look at what came out of it." She gestured to where my father was carefully sanding a fender, his sleeves rolled up and a look of concentration on his face. Sometimes the best lessons come from unexpected places. 3 weeks later, a truck pulled up outside my apartment building. The driver handed me a clipboard to sign, looking confused. "Not sure why they sent this all the way from California just to come back to the Pacific Northwest, but here you go." My heart skipped a beat as the delivery ramp lowered, revealing the candy apple red gleam of my original Mustang. On the passenger seat was a note in my father's handwriting. "Some things are worth more than money. I'm sorry. Love, Dad." I called him immediately, barely able to contain my shock. "Dad, how did you—" "Let's just say I can be persuasive when I need to be," he chuckled. "And it cost me significantly more than $18,000. But what about the other Mustang? The one we've been working on?" "Well, I figured since you now have 2 vintage cars and limited space in Seattle, you might let me keep working on that one. Under your supervision, of course." I laughed, wiping away tears of joy. Of course. That weekend, I drove my restored Mustang down to Portland. As I pulled into my parents' driveway, my father emerged from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag. He'd been working on the second Mustang, which now sat beside a covered shape I hadn't seen before. "What's under the tarp?" I asked as I climbed out of my car. My father smiled sheepishly. "Well, I was going to wait to show you, but—" He pulled off the cover to reveal a 1973 Porsche 911 in Guards Red. Not a Carrera RS like Kate's, but still a beautiful example of the model. "Dad, you didn't. I figured if you and Kate can have matching Mustangs, why can't Kate and I have matching Porsches?" He grinned. "Though mine's not quite as rare or valuable as hers." "Does Mom know about this?" I asked, laughing. "It was her idea, believe it or not. Said she was tired of hearing me talk about that green Porsche every time you two visited." Later that evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, my father turned to me with a serious expression. "You know, Evelyn, I spent most of my life thinking I knew best, making decisions for everyone around me because I thought I was protecting them." He paused, looking out at our 3 classic cars parked in the driveway. "But what you did, standing up to me, making me feel what it's like to have something you care about disregarded, it changed something in me. I never meant to hurt you, Dad," I said softly. "I know that. And I never meant to hurt you either. But sometimes we need to feel something to truly understand it." He reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'm just grateful we got the chance to make things right." I nodded, squeezing his hand back. "Me too." The next morning, Kate drove down from Seattle in her green Porsche, and the 4 of us, Kate, my parents, and I, took all 3 classic cars for a drive along the Columbia River. As we wound our way through the scenic roads, switching cars occasionally so everyone got a turn in each one, I couldn't help but marvel at how this whole situation had unfolded. What had started as an act of revenge had transformed into something far more valuable. A new understanding between my father and me, a deepened friendship with Kate, and 3 beautiful cars that would continue to bring us joy for years to come. Sometimes, lessons learned the hard way are the ones that stick the most. My father had finally understood what respect truly meant, and our relationship was stronger for it. As for Kate and me, we were already planning a cross-country road trip with our matching cars, though we still hadn't decided which ones to take. But that was a decision we would make together, with mutual respect and consideration. After all, That's what this whole journey had been about.